office and Wake Tech, so I have two bosses, which is interesting. Anyway, today I want to talk to you about PDFs. I've been fighting a long war with PDFs. I'm losing the battle, but I'm going to continue to fight it. So today, the title of this is using EPUBs to retire the PDF. So we'll get started. I'll go through. At the very end, we'll leave room for questions. And if you have a burning question during the presentation, or I go too fast, or I say something that doesn't make sense, please raise your hand and stop me, and we'll try to get your question addressed. So the topics we're going to cover today is I'm going to introduce you to what EPUBs are, show you where you can find some EPUBs. We're going to demonstrate some EPUB advantages over PDFs, and then I'm going to show you an EPUB workflow. So first, I want to start with just a bigger sort of question. What is an accessible document? What do we mean by that? Well, I have a few sort of highlights as to what I think an accessible document is. I probably haven't covered everything, but these are the basics, I think, of an accessible document. It's well structured and you can navigate through it. You can sort of go to a print page and it'll print exactly like it looks if you've structured it properly. The tables are structured, they have header rows. We can resize and personalize the text a little bit. It can support read aloud, both with screen readers and text-to-speech. Images are described, and you can handle accessible math. These are some of the main highlights, I think, of as an accessible document. And I always try to keep this in mind. This is a quote in my office that I always, first thing I see when I open the door, it says, I have many things to learn, even maybe especially about things I think I already know. And it's a way to sort of keep my mind fresh and stay humble a little bit. And I love showing this cartoon. I showed every presentation I ever give. So some people have seen this, a few times. But you have the kid in the wheelchair, and he asks the custodian to shovel the ramp. And the custodian says, well, I'm going to shovel the steps, and then I'll get around to shoveling the ramp. And the kid reminds him, if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in, right? He can do actually less work, and it makes it more sort of accessible for everyone. So he can shovel the ramp very quickly, and then everyone can get in, and he can come back and sort of shovel the steps. So it's a way for me to get people to think about accessibility in a way that maybe they don't, but you always end up helping more people than you think, and it sort of widens the path for everybody. So I told you I'm fighting sort of a losing battle on getting people to get rid of PDFs. I know it'll never happen, but I'm trying to get them to get rid of at least some of their PDFs. And here are my PDF problems. You can't make a mobile responsive. And the reality is a lot of your students are interacting with content on their phones, on tablets, that kind of thing. And there's no way to make a PDF sort of scale to those smaller or those different size screens. There's no way to create accessible STEM content with PDF. It just cannot be done. And they're cumbersome to make accessible. We have some new accessibility guidelines, and I think PDFs are going to get us into a lot of trouble. So we began looking for a replacement for PDFs, and we had a few conditions. If we were going to replace PDFs, we had some ironclad conditions that we weren't going to compromise on. The first thing is the replacement had to be mobile friendly, and it had to be easy to make accessible, right? We didn't want to have a huge learning curve. It had to fit into our existing workflow, so we didn't want to have to it was okay for us to sort of use different software, but we wanted stuff that was free or very low cost, and we found a lot of everything I'm going to show you today is free. Um, and we wanted a low learning curve, right? Like you, we don't have a lot of time to do things, so we wanted something that we could learn relatively quickly or would fit into our existing workflow. And we wanted to be able to also, I forgot to put up here, we wanted something that was STEM accessible, that we could make accessible math content, chemistry, biology, that sort of thing. So those were our major conditions. So we found something. We joined the DAISY EPUB and Higher Education Working Group, and you can join too. You just have to send an email to George Kersher at University of Montana and DAISY, and I would encourage everyone here to join. You can get a lot of coaching on accessibility. They have a math group. They have lots of products and services that will help with your knowledge of accessibility, and you can get some good coaching from experts from all around the world, actually. So when we found EPUBs, I always tell this joke. I sincerely hope that everybody listening to me right now has somebody in their life who loves them the way higher education loves PDFs. We're just not going to get rid of them, I don't think. But my job here today is to make a case of how we can get rid of at least some of our PDFs and how we can do that quickly and easily and in a more sort of accessible manner. So we'll start by just talking about what an EPUB is. It's essentially a web page that has been compressed into a document. Is just a way to look at it. You've probably read an EPUB, even if you don't know it. If you've ever read a book on, Amazon or Apple Books or the Google Play bookstore, those books are in EPUB format. In fact, almost everything ends up in EPUB format before it's published. Even the hardback novels you read, the authors usually send them in Word. The publishing companies convert them to EPUB just for the reflowable nature of it, and then they usually print them. The reason users like EPUBs, they're reflowable, so you can read them on any screen. You can increase the font size. You can make, you just have more control over the fonts and the reading experience. You can change background colors. You can do lots of stuff with EPUBs. And you can navigate through the document by heading, by table of contents, by page number. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And as I said, you've probably read one if you maybe even didn't recognize it. So the online bookstores, Apple Bookstore and Google Play Books, those are EPUBs. The anything you get from the Kindle store, those are an Amazon sort of flavor of EPUBs. And then if you use Vital Source and Red Shelf, they provide textbooks in the EPUB format. I would encourage you, we don't have time today, to go to Project Gutenberg. It's a free library. You can sign up for free, and you can download over 60,000 free ebooks. A lot of classics, a lot of things that are where the where we have free access to these books, these classics. And I would definitely encourage you to just explore Project Gutenberg. If you teach any kind of literature, there are lots of classic books there. They're free. It would help with OER a little bit. And you can just go to Project Gutenberg. You can Google it, sign up for free, and you can download as many ebooks as you want. So what makes EPUBs accessible is they're built on web technology. So they're built on HTML5, cascading style sheets, or CSS and JavaScript 5. And there's a lot of accessibility built right into HTML. You don't need to be a web developer to use EPUBs, okay? It's built on those technologies, but you don't need to know anything about them. What you do need to know, and one caveat, is you need to know how to create an accessible Word document. But the EPUB's advantages are they're reflowable, they're readable on any screen, they're a lot faster and cheaper to make accessible. And you can display accessible STEM content via MathML. So in the next few slides, you're going to see some of the advantages that EPUBs have. One of the major advantages, I think, is language switching, and we'll talk about language switching a little bit. But in the next slide, you'll see some of the advantages EPUBs have, and then we'll have a special video demo on using math with EPUBs. So here we go. I really like that language switching, particularly if you teach English as a second language, you teach Spanish or French or whatever foreign language. You can write down, common phrases and words in English. It'll automatically translate them to whatever language you set. And maybe we'll have some time. You can easily set languages inside of Word. It's very easy to do, and it does all of that automatically. Hopefully we'll have time to show that. Now here's some easy EPUB math using just Microsoft Equation Editor equations in Word. Those used to not be very accessible, but now thanks to EPUB, we can make those accessible fairly easily. And another thing I like about this EPUB approach to math is uh, one of the major problems with math accessibility is it's a language problem. If I if you can't see the screen and you hear solve for the following, the square root of 4 plus 5, is it asking you the square root of 4, which is 2 plus 5, which would give you 7? Or is it asking you the square root of 4 plus 5, which is 9, and that answer would be 3? So I don't know if you were listening in the demo, but you heard in root and you heard numerator and denominator. And that's one of the main problems we have with creating accessible math. It's turning out to be more of a language problem than it is an accessibility problem. And the EPUB partially solves that problem. Now here's a comparison of PDFs and EPUBs on mobile for you. So you've seen some EPUBs, you've seen some advantages of EPUBs. Now, how do you read them? You will need a program to read EPUB. You'll need an EPUB reader. If you have an Android or iPhone, you have an EPUB reader built right into the operating system there. For computers, we recommend Thorium Reader simply because it's very accessible in and of itself. It does a good job of reading EPUBs, and more than anything else, we like it because it's free. You can just go in and download it. But you will need a reader for that. And used to you did in the old days have to know something about web development or HTML to create an EPUB. Now you don't. So the Word to EPUB tool that you saw in the math demo is free from the DAISY Consortium. It puts a button on your Word ribbon, and it allows you to create EPUBs out of Word documents. But remember, garbage in, garbage out here, right? If you do not have an accessible Word document, you can't turn that into an accessible EPUB, right? It has to be an accessible Word document. So you're really going to have to understand how to create an accessible Word document. And you'll need at least one heading in your Word document, or it will not work. So those are just a couple of things to remember. You're going to need to know how to create an accessible Word document. And this isn't a Word presentation, but I just wanted to cover a few basics here. You're going to need to use built-in headings and styles. A lot of what we consider Word accessibility is really just usability and structure and navigation. There's a lot of accessibility built into Word. It's just for a lot of us, no one's ever sat us down and said, hey, here's how you use the styles pane in Word. Here's what the paragraphs group does. And one of the benefits of learning Word accessibility is you become more efficient at using Word. A lot of times if I go to a college, we go to a computer lab, we go over Word training, we do it hands-on. When I come back, to that college a few months later to teach something else, whether it's math or PowerPoint or Excel, people start creating accessible documents because it's quicker and easier, because you've learned the software better and the accessibility is built right in. And like I said, most of us, we sat down in front of the computer, we started typing in Word, and then we kind of figured things out. But once we really become efficient at using Word, we end up creating accessible documents just because it saves us time, because we build that structure. So Word accessibility basics is we want to have table headers. We want to use those built-in headings and styles. We want to have descriptive hyperlinks, and we want to add some alt text to our images. So we don't have time today, but I would encourage you to, if you're not certain on how to create an accessible Word document, to go to your Home tab and experiment with the styles, see what they do. Those styles can almost automate your process of creating documents. So here's a sample accessible table. Tables are just for columns and rows of data. They're not for formatting. They're not for making columns. They're like hammers, right? If you have a hammer at your house, you don't use a hammer to screw screws in with, right? Tables are very, very simple tools. And then our hyperlinks, we want those to be meaningful, right? We want those, instead of saying click here, we want to answer, where's the link going? Why am I looking at this link, and what else happens? A lot of times when I'm traveling the state talking to people about accessibility, we're really not talking about accessibility. We're talking about pedagogy, and we're talking about usability a lot of the times, or just as much as we're talking about accessibility. If we create a good, well-designed course, an accessible course is a good, well-designed course that makes it easier for everybody to sort of understand. And then alt text, I could talk to you for hours and hours about alt text, and it's a very simple concept to understand, but it's not easy to sort of implement. So we want to make our images available to people with visual impairments. We want to make sure that images we use are truly sort of adding value. This is a shot of the downtown Mexico City, right? If you're downtown in Mexico City, that's the El Angel statue. You're in the in sort of the higher income section of Mexico City. And I may talk about the El Angel statue. When it comes to image descriptions, it would depend on, the context. If this was an engineering class, I might talk about how she got up there, right? What did they use to hold her up there? How come she doesn't fall down? She's been there for 80, 90 years. Why doesn't she fall down? If this was an art class, I may describe what she's holding in her hands. How did the artist make it look like her dress is blowing in the wind? So the image description would change depending on the context. And alt text is something we have to have for all of our images, but I want to make a distinction here that we don't make often enough. Alt text and image descriptions are two entirely different things, and they kind of serve different purposes. In a sense, if I have my image description, that's for everybody. If someone's using a screen reader, uh, their screen reader will read that description, and then I can just let them know, like the alt text for this image right here. Say I'm in a geography class and I just want to describe this image. I'm talking about North America, so that's Canada, US, and Mexico. I may say, you know, Mexico commemorates its victory over Spain with the El Angel statue, and that's the winged goddess victory. So my image description may be that simple, and then my alt text would just be El Angel statue, Mexico City. And again, that image description is going to change depending on the context. And one of the fundamental arguments I want to make here is that probably most of your images need an image description. Just from a pedagogical standpoint, why did you put this image here? What purpose does it serve? So here's the, I was at Malin Community College. I got a chance to go to the Earth to Sky Park in Burnsville, which is close to Malin. And, you know, it's just, this is the Earth to Sky Park in Burnsville, North Carolina. Again, depending on the context, I may describe the greenery. I may describe that it's in the mountains. It may just be decoration. So again, it's so context dependent. So here are the key things for image descriptions. The context is key. And then you have to consider your audience, right? This is a classic car. This is a Volvo V70. Now, I'm definitely going to describe this station wagon differently to car enthusiasts than I would just say on Car Gurus. I just want to sell it, right? I just want to identify someone who wants a station wagon for room, and I would just describe it as, hey, this is a station wagon. It's got a lot of cargo room. For a car enthusiast, I'm going to describe this image totally differently, right? Those people care about engine specs and horsepower and year and, you know, the driving experience. I'm going to be very concise. I want to describe this image, and I want to have enough detail to cover everything, but I want it to be short enough to be interesting. So I want to be concise. I want to be objective. I'm not going to say this is a beautiful car. It's not a beautiful car. I'm just going to describe the color. I'm going to be objective. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. That's subjective. So I'm not going to get into that. And I want to go general to specific, right? I want to go, hey, this is a Volvo V70. It's blue. It's a station wagon. You see how each part of that, I'm getting more and more specific. And then my tone and language, I want to make sure that I'm explaining it adequately and with the right tone. So that's just a little bit, that was just a quick sort of review of creating accessible Word documents. We didn't cover everything. If you'd like to know more, you can email me at any time. I'd be glad to host a webinar or even come to your college for free. And we can work in a computer lab and we can work on creating accessible documents. So now we're going to talk about using Word to EPUB. So I hope we've demonstrated some of the advantages that EPUBs have over PDFs, the flexibility. So now we'll talk about actually using Word to EPUB. You got to start with that accessible Word file. We're going to use that built-in accessibility checker in Word. And then you just export to, if it's accessible, we're going to just export that from Word to an EPUB file. And I'll show you how that's done right now. It's basically 3 clicks. And you see there, the file just opens up. It opens up to my table of contents. And there's settings I can play with. I can do various things there. But that's essentially how it works. So I will share this presentation with you. This will be recorded, but we've got some EPUB resources where you can get Word to EPUB, Thorium Reader. You can read the DAISY Consortium's white paper on the benefits of EPUB. The AIM Center, I would encourage you to go there if you're concerned about accessibility. They have a good page on getting started with EPUBs. And then DAISY also has an EPUB checker for accessibility for your EPUBs. And I do want to say something before we leave today. I definitely want you to use the accessibility checker in Word, but that does not determine accessibility. You do, a person. Use the accessibility checker to show you what is not accessible, not necessarily what is accessible. In other words, the accessibility checker uses AI, and AI is not good at making nuanced decisions, right? In a few years, if AI keeps getting better, people like me who code and do tech things, I'll easily be replaced. My mechanic won't be. My plumber won't be. My electrician won't be easily replaced. They have to make nuanced decisions, right? I can take my car to my mechanic, and if it's not starting, it could be my battery, it could be my alternator. It could be an alternator wire. It could be the battery cables, right? The AI will just know, well, it's just a dead battery. Well, yeah, that could be it, or it could be something else, right? So AI technology at this point does not make nuanced decisions. It can't make nuanced choices. So anybody who has a job where you have to make sort of nuanced choices, you have to use some discernment. The accessibility checker doesn't do that. So I would encourage you are the final decider on what is and isn't accessible. And you do that through experience, through training, and just through knowing these things. So here are my reasons to retire the PDF and get rid of some of them. They're difficult and you can create an accessible PDF. And when people ask me to come to their college and demonstrate how to create accessible PDFs, that's exactly what I do. I go to their college and say, okay, here's how you create an accessible PDF. I'm going to be here all day, and I give them breaks, but I show them that it's a cumbersome experience. The PDFs are not mobile friendly, and like it or not, our students, they do a lot of interaction with course content and your college content on their phones. Again, I don't want to sound like an old man complaining. That's just the reality. They use their phones to interact with course content. It's now easy and quick, easy and simple to replace some of your PDFs with Word to EPUB. It's a free tool that you can go get. You simply have to know how to create an accessible Word document. It doesn't require any change to the workflow, your existing workflow. I'm not a betting man, but I would bet everybody listening here uses Word in some capacity in their job. And EPUBs are now the emerging standard for the publishing industry. And they're how things are published now, for the most part. It's going to take us normies a second to catch up, but I don't think it'll be that long. So those are my reasons. Any questions on anything we've gone over, anything we've done? If you're shy, just type in the chat window. If you're not shy, you can unmute yourself and ask any questions you may have. Maybe I went over something too fast, or I didn't adequately explain it. So now's your turn to ask questions. I don't think I'm that good a presenter. I'm sure there was something I maybe didn't adequately explain or glossed over. Wow, I guess not then. I guess you. Yes, Marianne, I'll put my email in the chat here. Now, everything we create at the PD Center is, of course, free of charge. Um, and you can use at your campus however you want to. Just give us attribution. You can also email me if you have any accessibility questions. No one in this state can say that they've emailed me and they haven't gotten a response. And, 48 hours or so, they can say they didn't like the response, but not that they didn't get one. And we are free to, if you need any help with accessibility, that's my job, to come to your campus and train you. It's totally free. My schedule fills up fairly quickly, so we have to take that into consideration. But we can come, go to a computer lab, work on hands-on training. We have guides. We have an extensive accessibility portfolio at the VLC, and it's all free for you to get at any time you want it. I'm always available, so just let us know. Okay. And if you want a copy of this presentation, as I said, send me an email and I will email it to you today, actually. So.
And Darrin, maybe I know I use the VLC quite often on a regular basis, and I also use your guidebooks all of the time. Every time I create a document, a PowerPoint, or anything, a chart, I use the VLC's guidebook. Can you talk a little bit about that, of what all what's on the website, as far as resources that they can have for free?
Oh yeah. Let me stop sharing this, and I'll share my screen. There is one thing I would like to show you here. Let me go to. So we have a free site that you have to use your community college email address, but I'm going to show you right now. I'll show you our Configio site here. It's a free sign up here. Let's see. Okay, I have a new computer. It's not going to let me share this, but I'll do it this way. I'll put it in the chat. It's vlc.configio.com. And you can sign up we have webinars. We have a webinar tomorrow, as a matter of fact, at 2 o'clock. So I try to give webinars every Tuesday and Thursday at usually at 2 o'clock. That's my usual time. That's when I find I get the most participation. We've got one on accessible math tomorrow. You can still sign up for it at vlc.configio.com. You'll have to use your community college address, but it allows you to get the webinars that we're both doing and webinars that we've previously recorded. Next Tuesday, we have a special webinar that we've been working on for a long time. It's how to create accessible campus maps. And I've actually created maps for about 30 colleges. I'm going to show you how to do it. Of course, I don't work at your college, so my map might not be accurate, but I'm going to show you exactly how to create an accessible campus map very, very easily. And that'll be next Tuesday, the 18th. So if you go to vlc.configio.com, you can register with you have to use your college email address. You can get webinars, you can get our math guide, our online accessibility guide. And there's really no excuse for anybody in our system not to create accessible material. You've really got a portfolio here that doesn't really exist anywhere else. Any other questions or anything else you'd like to see or that I can kind of do for you? Or if not, I can give you some of your time back. But remember, my job is to help you out there create more accessible material. We have probably most of the things you would need when it comes to accessibility. We also do a lot with course design. So we're able to help you. However, I always say this, I'm like a vampire. I can only go where I'm invited. I can't invite myself to your college. You have to invite me, or you have to ask me things. So it looks like there's no further questions. Please email if you need anything, and we will get your question answered as quickly as we can. And thank you, Trudy, for having me. I thank all of you for coming. I really, really appreciate it. I thought this was a regular meeting, so I'm glad you came. And just let me know whatever I can do to help.
Thank you so much, Darrin. You're wonderful. And, you provided some excellent information. Always, always do. So I hope everybody reaches out. They're usually not this quiet of a group, but hopefully people will reach out when they need some assistance. I know I do to you. So there you go. But I appreciate your time and your expertise in this matter. So everybody have a great day.
Anytime, Trudy. Thank you, everybody. Hope to see most of you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, Darrin. Thank you.